The workers refused, and now they're out of work. Today, more than 450 people lost their jobs after American manufacturing giant Caterpillar announced it's closing its Electro Motive plant in London, Ontario. For unionized workers in Canada, it's part of a frightening new era, tough tactics and no compromise. Let's begin tonight with that plant shutdown in London. Melanie Nagy is there. Melanie?
Kim, it's a sudden end to a bitter labor dispute.
Right in there, let that burn.
What was once worn with pride is today tossed away in anger.
Sucks, really. It's, it's a big chunk of my livelihood that is now gone, and gone for sure.
It's just like chopping you off the legs,
With little warning, U.S.-based Caterpillar announced today it's closing this production plant, which makes heavy machinery. 465 unionized workers are now out of work.
I've put my entire life here.
Scott Gilders is reeling. He's a machinist and has worked for the company for more than 20 years.
To me, it's all based on corporate greed, exactly what we're seeing here.
From all its operations, Caterpillar took home close to $5 billion in profit last year. Despite that, the industry giant was looking to slash costs at its London plant. And to do that, it wanted to cut wages by about 50% for some workers, from about $35 an hour to around $16.50. That was a demand the workers and their union refused. So the company locked them out on New Year's Day. Negotiations went nowhere, and now the gates are locked for good. In a statement, the company said the cost structure of the operation was not sustainable. In 2008, the Prime Minister visited the London plant during a campaign stop to promote $1 billion in corporate tax cuts. This plant got a $5 million break. Today, his office had this to say: "We are disappointed in the company's decision, and we sympathize with the workers."
This is a company that bought this facility.
Ken Lowenza heads the union that represents the workers. He says both the provincial and federal government should have done more.
If Stephen Harper doesn't wake up, there will be no jobs left in this country that are meaningful, that are value added, that provide for a decent standard of living.
So what's next? The union says it will meet with the company next week. Its goal is to hammer out a severance package. And until that's done, folks here say the picket lines will stay up.
All right, so Melanie, this isn't the first time this community has been hit by shutdowns. How do things stand for workers right now?
London is an area with a regional unemployment rate that's approaching about 10%. And then there was last year's closure of the Ford Assembly plant in a community just south of here. When you talk to folks here, they say this loss is devastating. Kim?
All right, thanks. Melanie Nagy in London, Ontario for us tonight. Well, Caterpillar is expected to move some of the work from London to a new plant in Indiana. Just this week, the state passed a highly controversial piece of legislation known as right to work. Essentially, the law outlaws mandatory union membership. 23 states in the U.S. have right to work legislation, but check out where Indiana is, right in the middle of America's industrial heartland. That was traditionally a union safe haven. Now, Indiana has become the first right-to-work state in the Rust Belt, and that's why it's getting national attention. Protesters are planning to demonstrate at the Super Bowl in Indianapolis this weekend. They fear the law is a union-busting tool that will lead to lower wages. Many would argue that unions are under the gun in Canada as well. And when it comes to collective bargaining, it seems they no longer hold the leverage they used to. Howard Gould has more on that angle.
The Caterpillar shutdown is devastating this family's plans. Wayne Purdy had 7 years to go to retirement. His son-in-law, who also worked at Caterpillar, has a new baby.
Before we had her, I questioned even having children just because of the way the world's going to be when they get older. It doesn't look good for them.
Right now, it doesn't look good for labor anywhere.
What do you think of being out here? How do you feel about it?
I feel terrible about it. We don't want to be out here.
Companies worried about the economy and governments trying to cut back are playing hardball as never before.
Well, certainly this is a major challenge for unions, and Caterpillar is not the only example.
Almost 800 workers at this aluminum smelter were locked out at the beginning of the year. 6,000 City of Toronto employees are being told make a deal with concessions or one will be made for them.
If we do not get the agreement by 12:01 a.m. on Sunday, we will implement the terms and conditions, and we expect employees to continue working.
In this atmosphere, many union leaders are quietly deciding now is not the time to fight. In Hamilton, the Transit Workers Union is recommending members accept a deal with tiny wage increases, well under the rate of inflation, rather than risk a showdown.
Today, the answer seems to be no, they're not winning.
This professor says the best workers can do these days is stall, hope the pressure in the public sector eases and the economy improves.
The world gets a little richer in the whole thing. Yes, they might have more leverage, but right now, companies seem to be able to have most of the cards to their favor, and the union just doesn't seem to have that much to play with.
Burn, baby, burn!
In London, they burned the letters that told them the Caterpillar plant is closing.
Thank you for your good work and yours.
The Purdy family tried to laugh it off, but couldn't.
You're the man.
What changed for you today?
I don't know.
Everything.
Depressed. I don't know where we're going from here.
Did you ever think you were going to win this fight?
With Caterpillar, no.
Victories for unionized workers these days hard to come by. Howard Gould, CBC News, Ingersoll, Ontario.
And equally hard to come by these days, a new job. And a quick look shows that the January job numbers aren't encouraging. Canada's unemployment rate edged up in January from 7.5% to 7.6%. That's a 9-month high. The heaviest losses are in professional, scientific, and financial fields. Manufacturing is actually one bright spot with more than 10,000 jobs created. The rise in unemployment